All right, people. Here we are once again in San Francisco. I don't know what it is about this week that's all San Francisco. I mean, X-Men Destiny is in San Francisco, and here we have Driver San Francisco, the latest iteration in the Driver series of games, which I did not play, but Mr. Nick Hodges did.
Hello.
Hello. And so did Kevin J. Baird.
Yeah, yep. I did. It was my first Driver game, I have to say, and it was much better than I thought it was going to be.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the reputation of Driver, people seem to really, really like the first game, but then there's some kind of differing opinions about the second and third. I've heard the third one kind of sucked.
Well,
but I've never.
Yeah, well, that was one of the first games I bought on the PlayStation 2, Driver 3. I mean, the Driver series I kind of consider like a classics, especially the first Driver. But Driver San Francisco takes place 6 months after Driver 3. And there's definitely a difference in styles to approaches towards the game. Like, you had Driver 3, which had more of a cinematic feel. It had big stars attached, had Ving Rhames, Michael Madsen, and Michelle Rodriguez. Whereas I'm not too familiar with any of the voice actors for Driver San Francisco. Whereas Driver 3 is more of like a film, this feels more like it's based off a TV show. You could definitely tell it's been inspired by Quantum Leap and Life on Mars.
Okay, that statement's going to require a little bit of qualification on your part. How is a Driver game inspired by Quantum Leap?
Okay, well, basically it goes like this. That's at the end of Driver 3, your main character, John Tanner, he's like a cop who's just cracked down like this criminal overlord in Istanbul. At the beginning of Driver San Francisco, you take him to prison. And then, of course, the bad guy, Jericho, escapes. And you get into a car chase and you get involved in a car accident, in a car crash. Mm-hmm. And then the rest of the game, what happens is that John Tanner gets into a coma and you play the rest of the game in his head. So what you're able to do is that you can possess the bodies of other people driving their cars. And
wait, okay, the Driver series up until this point has not been, flying cars, science fiction.
Oh, hell no, it's definitely not like that. Like, you're in a coma and you're trying to figure out why you're there and how to get out and how to wake up, basically. And
so what you're saying is that the writers for Driver San Francisco watched Inception too many times?
No,
I started writing the script.
They blatantly watched Life on Mars is what I'm thinking, because Life on Mars, which is a British television show, and I think it was also remade in America, is about a cop who gets into a car crash and he wakes up in the 1970s. So he's being a cop in the 1970s and he's trying to wake up out of his coma. Is the same thing here.
Except that you don't go back to the 1970s.
No, you don't go back to the 1970s. But this game does have a 1970s feel to it. Like, it feels like one of those 1970s films that took place in San Francisco. Like, it could be might as well be Steve McQueen. I mean, there's definitely a different approach, whereas Driver 3 was definitely darker, I felt. It had like a fantastic soundtrack, and the characters were definitely dark. I mean, you had like the main buddy cop, played by Ving Rhames, who's got like a deep voice. And then you cut to this game where the same character pretty much sounds like Corey. I'll say it like that. Okay? It's a different approach.
Let me ask you, I mean, you say it's 1970s, so or 1970s-esque, so the most important question in my mind is there Bow Chicka Bow Wow, and how much Wah Wah and Bow Chicka is there in the game?
Yes, there absolutely is. You got stakeout music, you got classic, stakeout music. I mean, that's one of the things I kind of hold against a little bit about this game. Whereas I think Driver 3 had a wonderful soundtrack that I still listen to on my iPod. Whereas this, it's kind of generic 70s-esque music, like something, there's only
you got
one or two
a problem with 70s music, Nick?
No, I do. It's just that there's no classics.
There's times in this game where it feels a little bit low budget. I mean, it feels like they did a lot with what they had, but there's some cheesy dialogue and the music's not all there and things like that. The game mechanic, look, it's a game where you drive around a lot, doing all kinds of things about driving. And, you're chasing down guys, you're running through different sorts of timed events and smashing into events and all of this stuff.
Races and your standard driving action game kind
and
of stuff.
Then this just has a gimmick or whatever you want to call it, a feature where you can leave the car you're in and you basically go to like a top-down map showing everything that's going on, and you can take control of any of the other cars that are on the road. and in order to accomplish your mission. So if your mission is to like stop a guy who's running away, you can, you start basically with the police car, and you get involved in a conversation that's going on there. Like it starts to have this sort of a side story where the police officers are talking to each other. They're showing them talking, and then like you start to chase after this guy. And then you can leave, like if your car gets wrecked or you roll it or whatever, you're not able to catch him. You can just drop out of that car for a minute and then grab like a semi truck and then just smash that semi truck into the guy that you're chasing. And so it has a really cool feature, that the whole game's sort of built on.
So obviously you can't jump into the person's car that you're chasing and just run them into a wall or whatever.
No, of course not. It wouldn't be fun. But it's kind of like that in Matrix 2 when the agents used to possess the bodies of other people and use their cars to cause car crashes and stuff. It's pretty much exactly like that.
Well, do the people, like you talk about conversations in the car, does the main character, does he acknowledge that this crazy shit is going on?
Dude, they do. It's really funny, because I'll possess, say, a guy in a taxi cab, and the woman in the back said, "Could you please get us there in a hurry?" He's like, "Oh, I will." And he just turn the car around and just crash it into the bad guy. And then he possess another semi-truck or something and just do the same. So people get freaked out as you randomly just take control of the car and what the fuck is going on?
All right. And so does that mechanic tie into the story, or
It does, because your character does not know whether it's the real world or whether he is actually in a coma. There's that kind of mystery to it.
Wait, what? He's jumping from body to body. He doesn't know if he's in the real world or not.
No, he doesn't. He's just kind of confused. He doesn't know he's in a coma. You just see little bits every now and again. When he switches the radio station in his car, he'll hear a paramedic saying, "We're losing him. And it was we need to get him to the hospital now." He's like, "Huh? What's going on?" And then he'll lose it and just carry on his day. So,
okay. Well, I guess, does that mechanic, is there a tie-in anywhere towards, how do they treat failing a mission, if that's the case? If you can always jump into another car, then how would you ever lose? If you make that turn wrong and the guy's getting away and you just pop open and jump into the next car down the line, how do you ever fail? How do you fail? How do you lose the game?
Well, because I'll be the first to admit that some of the cars have got a heavy ass, which I like to explain it. So it's really difficult when you're drifting and stuff. It doesn't feel that smooth.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, you just you'll get into another car and you'll miss.
Yeah,
the other
when you drop to the top down map, it's still real time. It's still going on. So you may pick a car, but it may be too late. You've got to kind of think about what you're doing a little bit, and the guy will get away or whatever. It depends on which mission you're talking about. There's different things. There's a lot of side missions. You'll do a race, and you'll be racing two cars at the same time, and you have to end the race with both cars being in first and second place. So you'll have to drive one and then switch to the other one and keep switching back and forth in order to make it through. It's got a lot of cool bits like that in the game that really kind of make it stand out differently than other racing, running around games that you've played in the past, I think. But at the same time, it is just a driving game. As much as we're talking about the story that is there, you're not really going to be getting out of your car and, suddenly becoming a first-person shooter and shooting guys or anything like that in the game.
Which is a shame, because that's what happened in Driver 3. It was that was the first Driver game where you can get out of the car and get into gun shootouts and stuff, whereas they've kind of gone back to the original PlayStation versions where you're just stuck in the car.
It's much more pure, just straight-up driving game rather than trying to integrate anything else into it.
Yeah, and they know what they know what kind of game it is, and they're just playing it like that. One of the other things is that sometimes, in order to progress the story, you have to find out where the bad guy Jericho is, and you don't know where he is in the city. You can only possess people that you know where they are, or you could see. Mm-hmm. So you have to work your way up his criminal empire by possessing bagmen and stuff, and impress Jericho with your driving. So.
Okay, God, this premise just sounds so strange for a driving game. We talk about creativity in video games. At least somebody's trying something here.
Oh yeah, definitely.
How's the you talk about? I'm curious, Kevin, when you talk about finishing a race first and second, switching between cars. How is the AI in the game when you leave a car? Does it have that kind of rubber banding that you see in a lot of racing games where you're way far ahead and then suddenly the other guy is just driving perfectly until he gets up close to you, that sort of thing? Or
I didn't really pay much attention to it. I guess it's okay. I mean, to be honest, I'm not sure if, like, when I left the car, if the other car was just driving and it was just kept going and never got into an obstacle or anything, or if the AI actually took over at that point. I mean, because a lot of times when I played the game, I just never went back to a car in the main game, and as part of that timed mission mode, it was pretty seamless. I mean, it was just it was a different thing because you didn't have to go to the eye thing. You could just quickly move between cars, button press. So it was popping back and forth. So, I mean, at no point, I don't know. I can't recall if the car actually was taken over, or if I was just getting really lucky. And you're making me want to go back now and look at it and see. Well,
you're saying that when you left the car, it didn't immediately take a left into oncoming traffic and explode into a huge fireball.
Yeah, it didn't just drive into a tanker or anything. It just But, I mean, I was constantly just finessing both cars back and forth. That I'm not sure if, like, when I let go, if the guy just suddenly, like, it would be kind of weird if the car just suddenly drove into the other lane or something. I think I would have noticed that. That didn't happen.
They do, but it's kind of got a good explanation because when you possess someone and you leave, they're like, what the fuck is going on? Like they just sometimes they'll crash, and you understand why, because 1 minute that they were on one side of the city and then the next they're on a highway going the wrong side of the road and they just freak out.
That's never happened to you, Nick? When you're just driving down the street minding your own business and suddenly you're doing 120 in the wrong direction on the highway? It's like, shit, it must be Tuesday, fuck!
Yeah. And then you got your girlfriend in the backseat, like, just shouting at you, and you've pretty much ruined that happy couple's relationship because you were going after some bad guy.
Well, I mean, it sounds like all that sounds really interesting. I guess the question in my mind is, I mean, does it hold up enough to keep you interested? How long is the game? And
it took me like a couple of days to play it because you got the main storyline, but you also have to keep doing side missions. The side missions I thought were really good. Like they kind of had their own storyline going. Like there was these two Korean street races, like that are trying to street race to get their college funds or something. And you'll possess the one kid driving, and you do an amazing job. And then his brother or friend will ask him to do it again. And you're like, God, why do I have to keep saving your asses all the time? But yeah, I thought they were very good.
So, I mean, what do you say, around 8-10 hours in a normal video game length, or longer than that?
Maybe a wee bit longer due to the side missions and stuff. You have to build up your experience points in order to go to the next level in the story.
Okay, that just leads to the question is, does that shift mechanic hold up for the entirety of that time? I mean, it seems like the sort of thing where it sounds really cool. I haven't played the games. It sounds really cool, but I could see it being the sort of thing where it sounds really cool for about 3 hours, and then you're like, okay, you get into a routine where you're like, okay, get into oncoming traffic, find somebody, crash into them, mission's over, blah, blah, blah. But
they do it in a different way each mission. They're always like sometimes you'll have to possess a car and then go under a semi-truck to defuse a bomb or something. So there's a variety in the way they do their side missions or their main missions. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I just think it's kind of like, in Spider-Man, like, does web slinging get old? No, it doesn't. So...
Fair enough.
Yeah, I think ultimately, look, too, I think that the game has like a lot of replay value in the sense that there's lots of these side missions, and the game has a really good driving mechanic. It's more Hollywood stunt action type driving than it is like, precision racing or something like Gran Turismo. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, this is a driving game. So if you're going to buy it, you're buying a driving game. I mean, you have to like a driving game, which, if you're not a fan of driving, everything we're talking about here, as cool as it is, at the end of the day, you're still, going down the road, dodging cars, and all this sort of stuff. So you got to kind of take that with it. But if you're into that kind of thing, though, I think this is, probably a high buy. I'm not, maybe not quite full price because it just seemed to skimp a little bit on the production values. Mm-hmm. But I still think that if you're into driving games, this is particularly a good one.
Okay. Does Nick, what do you think?
You know what? As much as I enjoyed the innovation behind the kind of story and the different approach, it doesn't make me. I think I would have to give it a strong rental. Like, I had fun playing it, but I would never see a reason to return to it. So I definitely think it's like you pick it up and you play it, and then you're done. You had a good memory of it, but it's not going to stick in my mind as a kind of classic.
Well, then the only question that I guess I have left is there a mission in the game where you have to pull a 6-ton safe down the middle of a street with two Mustangs?
No, we had to wait for Need for Speed for that.
Okay.